Ready? You guys good?
Yeah. First three pages.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the slight delay in getting started here. We're going to call to order the February 19th, 2019 open session, Rancho Murieta Association Board of Directors. Roll call, please. Here.
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 Thank you. We're going to move on to public comments. So the public shall have the opportunity to directly address the board on any items of interest. Public comments on items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the board are welcome, subject to reasonable time limitations for each speaker. If you wish to address the board this time, please state your name and lot number and reserve your comments to no more than 3 minutes so that others may be allowed to speak. No action will be taken. Each item of business will be introduced by the president. Public comment for that item will be open. The public will have the opportunity to speak on that item. And public comment for that item will then be closed, and no additional public comment will be allowed. At that time, the board will discuss the item and then take action. Just a quick reminder, we are limited by legislation and what we can address or talk to you about in public session on items that are not on the agenda. So you can bear with us on that. We'd appreciate that. But we do want to hear your input and thoughts. So is there anyone who would like to speak or make a public comment at this point?
Hi, Tony Avampato, Lot 20. I wanted to bring up a couple quick things. First of all, to try something different and thanking the board for the work that they're doing and let you know that it's greatly appreciated out in the community. I know it's challenging. I know not everyone agrees all the time, but thanks to everyone on the board for all the hard work. The second thing was the 4th of July celebration. As you all know, it's great every year. It seems to get better and better and better. We were talking about the DJ that plays at the gazebo before the fireworks, after the carnival and everything else is kind of subsided, just before the fireworks, there's usually a DJ at the gazebo. Wanted to bring up the idea of possibly having, oops, sorry.
Oops.
3 minutes already, Greg? Thanks, buddy.
You get an extra minute.
Anyway, I want to bring up the idea of looking into having some live music over there. I know Larry's involved with some other live shows at the gazebo throughout the summer, based on a lot of conversations I've had with friends and neighbors. I think it'd be a great addition to an already great 4th of July celebration. I haven't gone over there the last couple of years during the DJ's time at the gazebo. It seemed like I've noticed the crowds have kind of diminished over the last couple of years, for one, and for two, he's kind of missing the demographic, I think, of the community. People were there was people moving around a little bit, but he didn't draw any good crowds. So anyway, we could look into possibly the cost of getting a live band in there versus the cost of the DJ. I'm just throwing the idea out there. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Any further public comments? Okay. At this point, is there any board comment?
Actually, I have a comment based on that last resident. But Denise is probably the one that needs to answer this. Does any of that go through the rec committee, any of that activity that goes on at the 4th of July?
Typically, no. Typically, it's been a staff-managed event.
All right. So we'll look into that, Tony. Thank you for your comments.
Anyone else? Okay. Moving on to a consent calendar. That's item 4 for those who have an agenda. The consent calendar items are considered routine and will be approved by one motion. There will be no discussion on the items unless a director requests a specific item to be removed. So I'm looking for a motion on consent.
Make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Thank you. Any further discussion? Great. All in favor of the consent calendar, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 5 is the minutes. We've got 2 sets of minutes. We'll start with the minutes from January 15.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for January 15th.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes from January 15, 2019, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. And then we also have minutes of our organizational meeting from that night, January 15th, 2019.
I did have one correction on these minutes. The donated tickets, they were won by Allison Estrada. I don't know if that matters. It says Alex Estrada, but if that matters.
Okay, duly noted. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the amended minutes, say aye.
Do we have a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have a motion?
And this is for the organizational meeting, correct?
Yeah, this is the organizational minute.
Oh, no.
Did I jump the gun? Any further discussion then?
I just,
Well, we haven't
Okay.
made a motion on the organizational
we're-
minutes yet.
okay, so
Got
I make a motion to amend, to approve the January 15 organizational minutes
Yeah.
I thought we did the regular ones.
Okay,
With the correction.
with
with
the
the
amendment.
corrections. Yeah.
Okay. And
I'll
that's,
second it.
so, okay, so we got a motion and a second. Thank you for clarifying that. Any further discussion?
I just want to amend, so I was not at the organizational meeting. I'm sorry, I thought the first vote, I thought you said the January 15th meeting minutes. I thought we were talking about the regular board meeting,
Okay.
and I was there.
Yeah, we had 2 meetings that night,
Right,
so it's
I was not
confusing.
present at the
Got it.
organizational one, and so
So we'll strike you from being in attendance
at the first.
at the organizational.
At the
meeting.
organizational meeting.
Okay. All right,
And I would abstain from voting because I was not there.
okay. All right. So let's get an updated amended motion then, to include all of that.
Okay.
I make a motion. Is that what we have to do?
Is that what you
Please.
wanna- do
To
you wanna-
approve the minutes of the Board of Directors meeting on January 15th, 2019, and the corrected minutes from the organizational meeting minutes of January 15,
Okay.
2019.
Okay, great.
Is that
I think we
everything?
only needed the motion on the organizational part, so
Oh,
that's
okay. Well, I
perfect.
thought you said all.
Got it. Well, but with all the corrections.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, I'll second that.
thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. All right, so let's vote on this one. Then all in favor of the amended minutes for the organizational meeting, January 15th, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay,
I abstained. I was not there.
and we got an abstention. 6-0 to 1. Did you get all those amendments? All right. President's report. Item 6, we have the president's report. So I have to report out on our executive session. So we discussed contracts, which will be coming up shortly as well. We discussed a couple of legal issues, and we also voted on the foreclosure of a lien against parcel number 073-0540-017-0000. So that is the conclusion of the executive session summary. I also had a quick update. The president and GM of RMA and CSD met earlier in the month, and we're just trying to better coordinate some of the security and some of the traffic issues that we've been facing. So we just wanted to report out that we're talking. No decisions were made at this meeting, but we were talking and trying to better organize some of our traffic issues. So it was a very encouraging meeting. General Manager's report.
Okay, the first item I have is the Cosumnes Crusher Bike Event. The Cosumnes Crusher Bike Race is scheduled for May 4th, 2019. The race will start at the hotel and end at the country club. It is anticipated there will be approximately 300 to 500 racers participating. The length of the race is approximately 40 miles, with 17 of those miles being on the Rancho North property behind the lakes. Less than 1/2 mile will be on RMA streets. Those affected streets are Clementia Circle and De La Cruz, from just south of Marietta Parkway to Bridge House Lane. Traffic control will be provided by the event organizer, and no full lane closure should occur. The racer should be in RMA between 11 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. The race committee met with staff and several board members. They also answered questions at the Recreation Committee meeting. The recommendation is to approve the special event permit for the Cosumnes Crusher Bike Race.
Do we have any public comment on this item? Okay. Seeing none, board, would you have any discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the special event permit for the Cosumnes Crusher Bike Race, if there's no
I'll second.
discussion.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I think we had questions when this was first introduced, but we've had them answered at this point. Looks like it's the impact, or at least of our streets, is going to be fairly limited. Should be an interesting event.
I think it'll be a great event. I was an avid cyclist years ago. I'm assuming it's going to be an annual event, so next year when the organization does get together to plan it, I would just recommend, please get us involved just a little bit earlier. We'd like to support you as much as possible.
Okay, any further discussion? We've had a motion and a second. So all in favor of approving the Cosumnes Crusher Bike Race, say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, the item number 2 is the radar photo trailers. In 2018, the board identified the purchase of 2 radar photo trailers as priority. RMA currently has 3 radar trailers, which were purchased from RU2 systems over the last 10 years. So these trailers only show you your speed that you're going. They don't take pictures of your license plate. There are 4 options for accomplishing the acquisition of the radar photo trailers. The first 2 options are bids from All Traffic Solutions for 2 new radar trailers, one at a cost of $59,590, and the second is at a cost of $40,796. Now, the difference in these 2 bids is the higher bid has the Genetec software system, which is used by law enforcement. And so it basically allows police departments to load in hot list vehicles that are stolen and stuff. And so as the cameras capture these images of the license plates, they'll highlight if it's a stolen vehicle or if it's somehow wanted by the police. And so that's really kind of a law enforcement tool, not something that we'd use here. And so we'd be considering the lower bid of the $40,796 without the Genetec software system. Third option is to purchase 2 new radar photo trailers from RU2 systems at a cost of $24,621. And the last option is to convert RMA's existing 3 radar trailers into 3 radar photo trailers at an approximate cost of $22,000. The Finance Committee discussed all options and felt the purchase of the 2 new trailers was more prudent. And if RMA feels we need additional photo trailers in the future, one of the existing trailers can be converted at that time. This option also allows the existing 3 radar trailers to be deployed as decoys throughout the community. The trailers are currently in reserves at a replacement cost of $35,000. So the recommendation is to approve $24,621 from reserves for purchase of 2 new radar photo trailers from RU2 systems. Any questions?
Is there any public comment on this?
I second that motion.
Hey, Greg, I just had a couple questions about the trailer they're purchasing. I tried to read through the product specs and just some of the issues that we have that in regards to citation validity that I could see is there an avenue or does a manufacturer come out and calibrate the trailers? Is there a interval in which they're calibrated, and by which mechanism does that happen?
They recommend that you hire somebody locally to come out and calibrate them. So apparently the radar systems that are used in these trailers, they either work or they don't work. So in other words, they're going to check the megahertz that they're sending out at. And if it's not sending at that megahertz, then they said there's no real tuning to them, you replace them. And so and she said for about $150, you can have somebody come out and calibrate them or check the calibration on them. And so, yes, that is how they would be calibrated.
And did they recommend an interval to calibrate those?
Every 6 months is what she says is typical, I guess. To calibrate, $150.
Any further discussion?
How reliable have they been in regards to?
The speed radar trailers, we've never had calibrated because we've never issued citations off of them. And so those have just been whatever they were said by the manufacturers, what they've been showing. And so in this process, when we get the two new ones, they should come calibrate it. And there's really no need to calibrate the other three because you're not citing off of those two, off those three. So the only two you'd worry about calibrating are the two that are be taking the photos.
And what type of feedback has the company had from people, organizations that have purchased them?
They've been very effective. It was funny because I actually saw these in use at Frenchman's Creek in Florida at a conference, and one of the finance committee meeting members, his sister happens to live in that development, so he was going to ask her about them. But at Frenchman Creek, they said initially your activity is very high, but then once the people figure out what's going on, everybody slows down, and he says there is a real, people really hate them. And so, I mean, there is GPS tracking on these things or ways to secure them, because they say if you don't secure them, they will disappear on you because people just don't really care for them, because they are very effective. And they said it made a dramatic difference on their streets. People really slowed down for them.
So is there a device that they automatically recommend on how to secure them, or is there something you'd have to?
Well, I mean, we got three different things. We're going to have where we can lock the wheels up. It also has an internal GPS tracking device. And they can also have an audible alarm if you want to use it.
And I want to just make it, I guess, clear for myself and maybe for the rest of the board too, that this is just for the purchase. So when we get the trailers, then we can talk about how we're going to use them and informing the public, because I don't want to play a game of gotcha and have people driving around and getting tagged.
No, I think you need to highly publicize the fact that they're taking pictures of your license plate and,
Well, and I think that the purpose of these, and I think if you go back to our discussions, and I think I can tell you, having a visual deterrent is usually the most effective way. Actually citing people is less effective than actually having a visual deterrent as far as getting people to slow down. So if that's what these can do for us, then I think it's money well spent.
And I think the other big positive is right now we have people complaining about different streets, and we don't always get the enforcement on the streets that people say they have issues on. And so this way we can determine what locations the residents feel they have issues at and do enforcement on those streets without having to try to coordinate with other agencies.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Do you cite it 1 mile an hour over the speed limit?
Well, and that's going to really be for the compliance committee to decide. I mean, if you have these things set up and you get 500 sites, you may say, we're only going to address the ones this month from 35 on up if you've got 100 at that, because if you've got 500 sites, there's no way you can process them. So the compliance committee is going to make some judgment calls on that.
We'll have a policy, some sort of board policy too, I'm sure. Okay. Any further discussion on this? Cheryl, do you want to add anything about the finance committee and what you're thinking?
Yeah, well, the finance committee studied this for quite a while, because at that time, Greg had lots of different options for us to look at, and the gentleman on that committee really scoured through all of those specs, and we really appreciated that you narrowed it down for us, because it was kind of overwhelming at first, but I think the recommendation is the wisest one of all that we looked at.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Looking for a motion. We have to take action, I believe.
I'll make a motion to approve the $24,621 from reserves to purchase the 2 new radar/photo trailers.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, and the last item is, at the last meeting, the board asked that I try to come back with some type of costs that it would take to do a survey. I think we're thinking about recreation amenities or recreation programs. And so I contacted a group called Uptown Marketing, and she basically said that they would start with 3 focus groups of 30 to 40 members in each focus group, and that the cost of each focus group would be approximately $5,000. So you're looking at about $15,000 to get your focus groups going. Based on that, they'd come back with a detailed report, and that report would either say they felt they've got enough consensus to move ahead with the survey, or to move ahead with the recommendation, or that they need to do more studies and develop a survey. And then based on that information, and then talking to CSD about the 2 surveys they did, you're probably looking at the neighborhood a little bit north of $50,000 if you have to go the focus groups and the survey. And so I just wanted to bring those costs back to you so you guys had an idea what you're talking about if you decide to go with a marketing group to try to develop some type of consensus.
Does anyone in the public want to speak on this? Okay. So do we don't need to take any
No action. I was just giving you the information you asked for last month.
I appreciate you getting this information for us. I think it actually was good for us to see, because we think we can do it a lot cheaper. So we're going to work on that, aren't we?
Yes, that's
Okay.
that's
Yeah, I think
awful
we
high
can find
cost.
an internal solution.
We're going to look at
Yeah.
the type of surveys that the internet provides and things like that, but that gives us a good starting point of which we don't want to reach. Yeah, so.
One of the questions I had is I did go to this website for this company, and I couldn't find any online examples of surveys that they have completed prior. Did they provide you any
No,
examples?
I just talked to her about over the phone, and she asked me what type of organization you were, and she said, this is the size of our organization. She wanted to know how many homes were in the community, and based on that, that's what she came up with.
Okay.
So do we need to put this on our next agenda to make a formal decision, or?
I think you got, I think internally you need to decide where you want to go as far as how you want to do your surveys, yeah. I mean, if you want me to come back with formal proposals, this is in no shape or form that. This is just informational.
Oh, okay.
We could take a survey on it.
Maybe we could get 30 or 40 people in a room and ask.
Yeah, take a survey on the survey.
We got it right here.
I prefer to not see us spend this amount of
Yeah,
money
no.
on
Yeah.
a community survey.
Greg, when I was reading that, I was just it just flashed back of what CSD spent for their survey, and they're still not happy with the results.
Okay, thank you, Greg.
All right, that's the end of my report.
Okay, that takes us to item 8, committee activities. And we're going to start with the Finance Committee. What do you have for us?
The Finance Committee met on February 12th, and everybody was present, and we approved the minutes, and we, as I just said, we discussed the radar and photo travelers decision and approved the recommendation that was just passed by the board. We got an update on the casino night because one of the finance members had asked for that. Looks like that's going really nicely. Looks like everything is in place and you're going to make some money on it. So they were happy to hear that. And then we also took a look at the financial statements, and everything looked fine. Colleen, we're just real happy we still have money, you know? Okay, so that was it. It was a pretty good meeting.
And you have a recommendation for us?
Oh, I'm sorry, this is the night we do that. Okay, yeah. We basically looked at our membership, and we lost one person, and Jim Moore has been on the list for a while. Everybody kind of knows Jim Moore here. He was a previous president and has good history and knowledge about RMA, and so we moved to move Jim on to the Finance Board. We have a couple other people that are interested in that, and if we need alternates, then they may be called upon to join us sometimes. So I need, I guess I need a motion?
You sure
Or
do.
can I make the motion?
I think you did.
I think
Did
I
you?
can make a motion, huh?
Did you? I think you did.
I make a motion that we approve Robert Hamill, Jim Moore, Chris Pinkerton, and Frank Palmelia for the Finance Committee.
I'll second that.
Okay. Before the board discusses that any further, any public comment on that? Okay, board, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the new Finance Committee members, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We're moving on to architectural review.
Architectural review, we just met once this last month, January 17th. The items that were discussed in the meeting, we had a driveway parking variance, which was approved. We reviewed a new residence, preliminary plans, of course. And then for new business, we approved the use of a new roof, Certainty Grand Manor. And then just one other item, the RMA Maintenance Committee passed on to us some plans which we approved for the installation of 3 picnic tables, which were generously donated from a board member, Larry. Thank you very much. And there'll be, Rod's going to take care of the cement pads for them, and they're going to be located near the gazebo area. As for committee members, I'd like to appoint the following residents to the Architectural Review Committee. Frank Dinninger.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Sorry to
okay.
interrupt. Do we have a common area lease that we need to? Or does
Yes,
it
we
matter
do have
what
a common
order-
area.
Does it matter what order we do that in?
It has to be approved.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
It says
Is that
recommended
first?
approval.
And we have a recommended approval of the existing common area lease for Lot 263. And these common area leases have a change of ownership. The owners have paid all the required fees through escrow. So
I
we do need,
move to approve it.
I second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Now.
okay, now for the committee. Okay, I'd like to recommend the appointment of the following residents to the Architectural Review Committee. Frank Dinninger, Bill Fitch, Maureen Gormley, Bill Vaughn, and Doug Reed, alternate.
Okay. Any public comment on that? Okay, I'll take a motion to approve.
Motion.
Oh, in a second?
I keep making,
Okay.
Jim made
Yeah,
Second.
I would like, yeah.
All right. All, further discussion? All in favor of our new ARC committee members, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Congratulations. And thank you, Jim, for hopping over to ARC and working on that committee this year. Appreciate it.
It'll be good, thank you.
Moving on to Communications Committee.
Okay, the Communications Committee met on Wednesday, February 13th. We talked about our roles and responsibilities with Stephanie joining the committee. We updated our policies and procedures. We discussed some things as far as greenfields and ways to, look at trends and better communications with them. We looked at our website goals and if we met them, and I think we did. We had a list here of what we now can do that we couldn't do before. And we took a look at all the ways that RMA communicates with residents, and we came up with at least 8 or 7. And then we were discussing adding the Facebook page, which would be something new. And so I'm going to let Stephanie talk about that part. So.
Yeah, so one of the things that Joanne and I have discussed more recently and involved Greg with is the potential for setting up a working group to, one, increase our membership for the website, but then 2, working to coordinate our website with social media so that we have a controlled message getting out into the community and going to where community members actually are accessing information so that it's a multifaceted approach. So-
I don't remember discussing that, but that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're looking at like syncing with Instagram I mean, we're gonna try to modernize. is what you're trying to say.
Yes, so essentially the idea would be, updates would go up on the new website, and then we would interface those or link those so that those messages would then populate again on whatever social media sites we decide, the board decides or the committee decides to use. And I think it would be helpful to have, a little bit more input and more hands-on deck to continue to push that forward. I think our website membership, from our December meeting to January, I think we went from about, Colleen, you might have to correct me, but I think it went from like 100 to maybe 400, and now we're at 470 something?
We're at like 587.
Oh, 587, okay, so we're doing good. We're creeping up there, but I think there's still a lot of residents that we need to reach out to.
Good. Well, it always helps to modernize and to get with the
I have a
the flow.
question.
Now that Facebook is, 10, 12 years old, we're finally getting on with it.
Well, and I think it's considered the social media for old people or older
Yeah,
people.
this is true.
But that's okay. I think a lot of people still use it and interact with it. So.
I have a-
We like to be referred to as retired people.
No, I'm considered in, no, I didn't mean that. I meant my generation is considered for the younger group.
I have a question I want to ask you. So I'm very, very eager, as you probably remember, to get everybody as much as possible, and you are too. So have you discussed any ideas about incentives or things that we can do to get more people on board? I'm working on this emergency preparedness plan thing, and eventually, one of the biggest elements of that plan is going to be that people can get notified.
Sure.
And 2,500 or plus households, how many do we have right now?
RMA members, 2,300.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, was there any discussion on that, or
We did.
will there be?
We did. So we talked about having banners at the gates, because obviously that does reach a certain group of the membership. We talked about our quarterly newsletter, putting something in there or a tagline in there. We discussed about the stationery that RMA uses, adding our website to that information as well. We talked about our email blasts, including that. I can't remember if there was more.
Do-
I think we were going to do like a message of the week.
Okay.
Just
Yes.
say, have you looked at your calendar today, and then prompt them to,
So one of the things that we did discuss is doing like a bi-monthly, potentially, or weekly, did you know, on the new RMA website, you can pay your HOA dues, or you can sign up for events, or there's a calendar with a list.
Right.
So it's going to be like helpful tips so that people can click around and find that portion of the site and hopefully become a little more familiar with
Right.
it.
And I'm not done, okay. I really also would like to remind all the other directors that when we started our newsletter, we agreed, or we encouraged you to put something in on a regular basis about your committees. Like, I remember we were talking about compliance, and it was, did you know that the number one reason for getting violations is running stop signs, or that kind of thing? And we were putting little information. So the did you know thing started with our newsletter. And then pretty soon we got busy or whatever, and we weren't doing it as much as anymore. So I want to encourage Darlene to nag us and bug us about sending out something saying, do you want to include anything in the newsletter, so that we do put it that way. But now that we have a website, we could also send it to, and that would be who? It'd say, would you put this on the website for this month? Who do we send that to? We still send it to Darlene. Okay, all right. So I think we can get more information out from our individual committees that way. That would be one thing. And then my last thing is, I think all those ideas are great, and just keep bombarding people with things. But what I was getting at was, sometimes you just have to like dangle a carrot out there. And so maybe we could talk as a board what might be some kind of incentive, like that we could offer people to get them signed up
Sure.
when it really gets down to it. Because
Yeah.
it's going to get, there are many, many other communities that I'm familiar with, and they require it. They just require it. And every time I say that, people kind of go like this, we can't do that. And I don't know why we can't do that, but I think we need to look at that in the future, okay?
Larry?
At one point, we had a scheduled training program for that, and is that planned to be reactivated?
I do not have a definitive date to set that up. I think we had discussed trialing the Did You Know type series, increasing potentially the membership in the website, and then having the other seminar at some point, maybe in a month or so.
I hope we do. I think a lot of people would come to that. They'd feel comfortable, 'cause
I want to make sure that we get the word out about it in sufficient time that we can get a good turnout at it.
when we get our reader board,
Yes,
put that stuff
we
on that
discussed
too.
that too. We also discussed having the information about the website potentially at the ETC kickoff event.
We can do that.
And also put some flyers at the, asking the Bean if they'd be willing to put some out there. We can have some out at our casino night table this weekend. So we have different opportunities, I think, where we can reach different groups.
ETC likes to do raffles, maybe there'd be something we could do for people who are registered for, people who have registered on the website or something, because ETC and RMA are very close. They work closely together with a lot of things.
Okay.
And I don't know, are you okay? I just, for those who are country club members, they're doing a great job getting the word out. They're really,
Yeah, they
blasting my inbox.
blast us every week.
But it's good. I mean, more information is better than not enough. And I think that if, I want to have more than country club in terms of my inbox, so.
I was going to change the subject briefly without getting off of communication too far. I want to commend Ralph for .com adding their new alert system to tell us about traffic problems and road closure. It's good.
And just, thank you. And so are the two co-chairs comfortable with the way the roles and responsibilities are set up at this point? Everything's good? Everything's
I
good?
think so. We voted on it.
Sweet. All right.
We discussed, we had a very good meeting.
Okay. Awesome.
So-
Do we have
We have a recommendation for the
Okay.
committee members.
All right.
So we would like to recommend the appointment of the following residents to the Communications Committee: Carol Anderson, Bob Lucas, Ray Matheny, and Myrna Solomon.
We have a typo on her name, but I guess that's okay. Any
We
public
only
comments on
have four
that?
at this time.
Public comment on that? Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Do we have a second? And do we have any further discussion on our communication committee members? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of our new communications committee, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Sweet, motion carries. Moving on, we have compliance, grievance, and safety committee.
Which one do you want first, compliance, safety, or communication?
You choose.
Or grievance? As Jim can allude to as being the previous chair of that committee, it is somewhat overwhelming, but also the committee itself is very frustrated with not being able to get violations and security working the way the committee feels it should. And so, with the help of Jim being on the previous year's committee and with that committee and some of the staff, I'm kind of moving forward with some ideas on how we can work better with CSD and security and try and make our violations and our citations a little more uniform and we dealt with, as the board can see, with typical issues that have been prevalent for many years, and specifically the last 6 months, when we started enforcing and moving violations at a higher rate. And so there was a significant amount of appeals that we had to deal with. And you can see how we responded to those appeals. At this point, I'm not going to go into anything further on that, but there was 102 violations in January that were cited. And my recommendation, I'd like to make a motion to keep the committee exactly as it was. Judith Embry, Steve Mobley, Ken Poole, and Tom Ramers. My motion.
Do you want to list the alternates too? Is that required to list the alternates?
The alternates are Ray Gray, who's new, and Jim Moore, and Bob Tilford is the other alternate that's been around for a while.
Okay, motion is on the floor.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second, thank you. Any public comment? Any board comment? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of our compliance committee, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Moving on to, governing docs.
So, governing docs, we did not meet. However, I do have a recommendation, and it's a recommendation to appoint the committee for 2019. I have no idea why these people want to be on governing docs, because it's the most boring committee.
They love you.
However, God bless them.
It's a cult following.
Scott Adams, June Kofelda, Bob Lucas, and Greg Verdon.
I'll second that.
Is there any public comment on that? Any board comment? We have a motion and a second.
You sure? You guys? You don't want to?
We're good.
Okay, all in favor of our governing docs committee, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Now, I do want to say, if you guys need something, maybe we should put the survey into governing docs.
Yeah, right.
How valuable is?
I dare you. I dare you, Larry.
Oh, he thinks we're bluffing. Okay. We're moving on. Joint Security Committee. Who am I going to hand that off to? Who wants that?
That's me.
Oh.
I'm the chair. Okay, so the joint, wait, I'm sorry.
Time out.
That's-
Time out.
That's in here. Why is it in here?
Wait, the Joint Security
You're probably thinking about the
Committee is-
evacuation.
That's
I
different.
know, I was going to say, why, yeah, there's no title for it, just, I went right to it.
Cheryl, we have a Joint Security Committee that these guys are.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Yes.
yeah. It was right with it, so I thought.
Who would
that's
want
fine.
it?
The Joint Security Committee only meets occasionally in the past, and I've been on the board 3.5 years, and they haven't met since I've been on the board. So this will be a first. They're meeting February 28th. It is typically the president of our board and the chair of the compliance committee that meets with and staff, and they meet with CSD and kind of the same people in CSD, as well as the villages and the villas and everyone else that's concerned with security, including the new development people. So we do have an agenda, and it will be an exciting meeting since we haven't met in at least 3.5 years.
And Larry, what time are you meeting again? 6 p.m.?
Well, this I didn't know that until I read this, but thanks for bringing it. I was going to ask if you had any comments.
And I do, and at the.
6 p.m.
It'll be at the
RMA
CSD.
building, or at the CSD
building, yes.
CSD. And that is open to the public,
Yes.
okay? But then we also have, Cheryl, the RMA Emergency Preparedness Advisory Group. And God bless you for taking this on. I think it's great. So what do you got for us?
All right, so we had our first meeting, February 18th, and at that time, we had part of our committee formed, and they are just great. I mean, these people have such great expertise in the area of emergency preparedness and safety and traffic and all kinds of stuff. So anyways, we met, and it was really an organizational meeting, so that we just kind of made a decision of the areas that we would focus on. Primarily, it's going to be fire and flood. Those are two areas we're going to focus on for emergency preparedness, and looking at combining that with some kind of an evacuation plan. So these minutes reflect our first meeting, although we did have our second meeting last night, and we were able to complete the committee and put the full group on, which is 8 people. We had decided at the very beginning that 8 would be the max on our cap on our committee, and we put number 8 on last night when he joined us. So we have defined what different agencies we need to meet with, and we have a list of dates that we will be meeting, and like I said, every single person on that committee has got some expertise in some area that has to do with emergency preparedness, so I'm pleased with the knowledge base that we've got to pull from. So with that, if you take a look at my committee members, you'll see that I'm recommending approval for the Preparedness Advisory Group, and I've listed their names. Now, Joanne Brandt and Jim Crowder are also on that committee with me. Okay, so we don't have to approve them. They're already approved. We did that at a prior board meeting. So I'm asking that you approve Betty Ferraro, Rob Schultz, Greg Pryor, John Long, and Davis Moschetti. I think it's David.
David.
That's a typo, okay?
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any public comment on that? Okay, any further board discussion on that?
I think you did an excellent job of putting this together, Cheryl.
Agreed, I like the organization of it and how it's laid out. It's
Yeah.
very well done, thank you.
And one goal that we did decide on is to have a draft proposal to the Joint Security Committee within 6 months.
Yeah. Maybe sooner.
If
Some
we
of
can
these
do it,
people
if we
some
can
of
do it
these people
sooner.
are moving, I mean, they're
if-
good.
Oh,
Yeah.
they are,
Yeah, they've
Yeah.
got stuff.
Hey, Cheryl, was there an 8th member you said was added last night?
Was there what?
Another member added
Yeah,
last night?
David Moschetti
Oh, okay,
forms,
he was-
makes 8. Yeah.
And boy, you hear all those stories of those tragedies or those fires across the state.
Like, for example, Greg Pryor is the former fire chief here in Rancho Murieta.
Nice.
Great,
Okay, I mean, so
great.
we have, and then John Long, he's a transportation expert on evacuation plans across the state. So, I mean,
Great, great.
just good people that really have some good background.
No, and we need a plan. I mean,
Yeah.
we can't think we're exempt from something tragic like that.
Our next meeting, we've invited Mark Martin and the chief to come and meet with us and give their input into the stuff that they're working on. They're meeting with the Office of Emergency Services and that kind of stuff. So we've had a dialogue also. So we have guest speakers scheduled to come in and share information with us and stuff.
if I can add just one more thing, and it's already been brought up once. This is just one more reason why it's important that we have vital information, phone numbers, and emails. Because, like with the county with the 311, you can set up your cell phone so that if there's an emergency, they will contact you immediately. From our aspect, if we need to send you urgent information, it can either go through an e-blast, we can communicate with you, and email is important. So I just want to emphasize that one more time.
Yeah,
There's a motion and a second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I was just going to throw out there, I would kind of like to see like the goats or the sheep out there eating the grass. That'd be nice. Okay, all in favor of our emergency preparedness group, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I would like to back up. for just a
Motion
s-
passes 7-0.
I would like to back up just a second to the Joint Security Committee. When I said that the committee typically is the board president and the chair of the compliance, Alex did pass that responsibility Jim. So Jim and I are co-chairing that joint security committee.
Very capable hands. Okay, maintenance.
The Maintenance Committee met on Monday, February 4th, and we had a resident who came to our committee, and she was having concerns. She lives on the Front Lake, and what we're currently doing on the Front Lake to try to restore the health and to take some of the nutrients out of the water that comes through the storm drains is we're letting the cattails float around until they find a permanent home. Well, they had all gathered by our house, and they were rotting and smelling, and I think we agreed to go ahead and move those away into a more ideal location to catch the storm drain, and so that's how we took care of that.
I accepted the responsibility of having them in front of my house instead.
And then Rod discussed about, there was 2 projects that came up in the community that were emergencies, and they're putting us, we can't do our project, get on our project list till these are taken care of, and one was on Pescado and one was on Mar Drive, and if anybody wants some more details on that, I can have Rod discuss it. Any board members? No? Okay. And basically, we can't start our project list until we get these other issues taken care of, so. And that was the end of our meeting.
Can I ask a question? In just looking at the projects that we have in progress, or placing the restrooms out at Clementia, I've had some questions about whether organizations in the community might be able to paint it, a mural. ETC might be interested in putting an arts, music-type mural on the back of that. Would that be something that could be considered?
Probably go to ARC.
Go AOC?
Is that going to encourage graffiti?
Might discourage graffiti is what we're thinking, yeah. Yeah, so that's where we'd start? Okay, all right. Okay. Just wearing another hat there, thank you.
We could sell advertisement.
Just real briefly, so that still shows up on the list because we don't have our landscape done yet,
Right.
nor do we have skirting around the outside of the building. So just keep that in mind
Yeah,
as part of that whole.
we'd probably want to
design.
wait till that's all done, and then whether it would fit in or not, yeah. Okay.
I have a question on that same list. In the future list, the third item, it says lights at the new pickleball court at Stonehouse. Is that something we're doing?
No, it is something that, Larry, I don't know if you can remember who, but, so it's not an approved project, it's something that somebody has come up with for us to look into what the cost would be to do something like that, but it is not one of the projects.
Okay.
Actually, Stephanie called me, and I looked at that for the first time in months. And I wondered the same thing, because it's not really, the board, it's never come before the board. It's and thanks for bringing that up, Stephanie.
Sure.
I thought maybe it was a continuation of lighting the basketball courts, and now since the pickleball court is consumed the basketball court, it gets the lights instead.
Different basketball court, though. The basketball court that is scheduled to be, to get lights, as a matter of fact, we have those in stock, are at Riverview Park. So,
My
different court.
recommendation is to take that off your future list, because the pickleball people aren't there after 11 o'clock in the morning. They don't care if it's lit or not.
Yeah, I don't remember, I can't recall how it got on there, but I think what it was their request because of midsummer getting hot. But we certainly can take that off, because, yeah, it's not an approved project.
While you have the mic, Rod, how's the dog park doing in the south?
Saturated. So I'll briefly, as Joanne just alluded to, we've got a couple of drainage issues that we've had to pull away from some of those projects to work on. In addition to that, we had a lot of compliance issues that we needed to deal with around the shop in regards to our stormwater pollution prevention stuff and hazmat stuff. So our schedule now is, once we get these drains done, this week we're starting on the disc golf course over at the greens. As a matter of fact, they'll start installing some of the footings for those tomorrow. And then we'll work on getting the lights done. And then after that, we're hoping that the dog park will dry out enough to where we can do our grading there.
So and you went to another question I had. So with the Frisbee golf and I won't hold you to it, so that would be,
I'm sorry, say again?
for the Frisbee golf, you're going to start doing the footings on that, you said?
We are. So the footings is pretty minor in regards to equipment that we've got to get on site. So we can go ahead and do some handwork there. As a matter of fact, the designer of the disc golf course is going to be working on that. So then we're going to have to wait till things dry out a little bit so that we can get concrete out there for pouring our pads for each one of the tee boxes. It really is going to be dependent on what, Mother Nature starts being nice to us or not.
Okay. And with the dog park, we're probably looking late spring?
We plan on doing it for the road ends, we'll see that till mid-May, late May.
Okay.
Anything else?
I'm good. Any other discussion? All right, you want to recommend?
I'm going to recommend. I would like to recommend the appointment of the following residents to the Maintenance Committee: Randy Jenko, Blaine Lamb, Virginia Macco, Frank Mann, Steve Murphy, alternate, and Jerry Palmer, alternate.
Okay, any public discussion?
I'll second that motion.
Seeing none. We've got a second. Any board discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor of this maintenance committee, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0. How about the Parks Committee? Who wants that?
Not even in here. Parks Committee did not meet.
Do you have a recommend? No, there's no recommendation.
No, it's already made up.
Very good. And then our other co-chair position, the Recreation Committee. Who would like to take that?
So the Recreation Committee met on February 6th. We had a very robust discussion about multiple things. We did have a presentation by the people involved with the Consumnes Crusher. We also discussed potential upcoming events for 2019. We discussed multiple items. One of the items that I wanted to discuss with the board and just kind of get feedback on, we did discuss this in the committee, was potentially having a National Night Out event. What this essentially is a support and education for law enforcement in the community. It is a nationwide event that's held on the first Tuesday in August every month. We have support, verbal commitments from Kiwanis potentially interested, as well as the Optimist, as well as they was planning on reaching out to the Boy Scouts and other local organizations about getting involved with us, about having an event in the community that would involve everybody and supporting our local law enforcement here in Rancho Murieta. So I was just looking for feedback from the board, concerns, questions.
What would, not being familiar with this, what would that entail? I mean, if I were to participate in this, what would I do?
So every community sets it up differently. Some communities set it up as individual block parties that each, individual groups or blocks set up themselves. We haven't really discussed any formalities on it, so I would assume representatives from each one of those groups would end up getting together and discussing what we would like for it to look like. I could foresee us having a group event potentially at Stonehouse with potentially various booths, education. I did talk to Cheryl about potentially having them if they're ready, discuss the emergency preparedness plan with people, have, law enforcement representatives out there, intermixing with, residents, just kind of make it fun, interactive, appreciative of our multiple law enforcement people in the community, and trying to bring people together. The specifics of it, we would have to work out exactly what it would look like.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
So we also discuss other events which the committee will need to address at future meetings. We talked about the community survey. We also discussed pickleball, as that has been brought up multiple times to the board. And we discussed casino nights as well.
And how are the roles and responsibilities working out between you two? Everything working out good?
Yeah, she's taken over.
No, I think it's a good collaborative effort.
Okay, good to hear.
I had a question about one of the items you guys were discussing, where you're talking about lowering the number of prizes to the Summerfest bingo. Can you explain what that's about, or
That's
why
actually-
you'd want to do that?
Yeah, let me jump in there. I was the one that discussed that. What we were looking at was the possibility of not necessarily lowering the number, but paying less for the items. Like, instead of giving out $50 gift certificates for a meal, give out 40 or something, so that we can find additional resources to do other things with the financing that's in the committee. And another idea was to look at sponsors to help with the prizes, instead of RMA themselves paying for all of the prizes. So the idea wasn't to limit the number of prizes. In fact, we should be able to find a way to increase the number of prizes, and maybe even increase the amount of bingo that is offered in the community. I'd like to see some outdoor bingo done, and various other ideas. So the bingo is a very popular item, and there's no way that we're going to diminish its popularity in any way.
Well, I was just reading the minutes, and it just looked like you guys were thinking of changing from what you had
Yeah,
done
there was quite a
in previous
discussion.
rooms.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the
Yes. concerns
is the budget for the Recreation Committee on an annual basis has been, I may be wrong, but I believe it's been $21,000. And just on our bingo events alone, the budget for bingos as a whole, may be wrong, but I believe it's about $6,000 for the 4 bingos that we sponsor each year. So it was just what precipitated the conversation.
Oh, okay, I was just,
We're going to keep the events that are popular, and maybe even enhance them.
Well, I don't know if this is what you're going at, Joanne, but I know that Summerfest has done quite a bit for RMA, and I wouldn't want to rock the boat if that's what you're.
well, it just seemed to me that I'm hoping that we're being as supportive as we were in previous years, and I didn't understand why we would want to change, because I don't think our budget's changed, and I don't think we have a real shortfall in our recreation budget, so I don't understand why we'd want to reduce the amount. That was my point.
So you're saying it was just a consideration, but it didn't go anywhere?
It was just a consideration, just like, for example, we also looked at the San Francisco Giants games, and consecutively over the last 3 years, that event had lost money for the association, so we decided to trial something different this year. So
Are you
Have
gonna-
you seen them play? I mean,
Are you going to try the River Cats? I see that's on here.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, real good.
That
idea.
was proposed last year, and I've kind of done a little research on it. It'll come before the committee next month. I think.
Yeah, the River Cat seems like a good alternative.
Well, we
to
also have
the
the
Giants.
ability, we're looking at the schedule, to pick a game to offer to the residents, where not only would you get the farm club for the Giants, but you also get the farm club for the A's playing each other.
That'd be nice.
Very good.
Yeah.
Just make it on a Thursday night.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I think.
Thursday is Thursday. Like tell our peers.
You would know.
All right,
Every night, every Thursday, Thursday.
very good. Anything else on the recreation committee?
Do you want me to do the casino night update now, or?
Please.
Okay. So casino night update. We currently, as of today, are at 123 tickets sold, including our sponsors. We have 143 planned attendees. We have 11 confirmed sponsors. Our finances, based on funds that were included as of today, thank you, Colleen, for your work with me on this, $11,735. We have a total expenses of approximately $8,000, so we are continuing to proceed in the black at this point. And the event is Saturday from 7 to midnight. Tickets are still on sale, and ticket prices will increase as of Saturday. So if anybody wants tickets, I'd encourage them to purchase prior to Saturday.
Why don't you give us an idea how much time your committee has put into this? Have you tracked it?
No.
3.5 years.
No, I honestly, I don't know.
Endless?
That's
Is it
man
just-
years.
Just endless time?
I wouldn't say it's endless. I mean, obviously, it takes a lot of work, a lot of collaboration and whatnot, but it's been a fun experience. It's been a lot of work, but I think it's going to turn out well, and I think we're showing that we're going to have meet our goal, exceed our goal. I think our goal this year was to break even, and we're exceeding that at this point, so I appreciate everybody's hard work on it.
And how has the hotel been, they've worked well with you?
Yes, very well.
Anything else? You folks have a recommendation as well?
We do. I might add that there were 17 people that we invited to the first meeting this year as, mostly as volunteers, because we hadn't actually, there wasn't very many returning members. So Stephanie and I had a little discussion about how we were going to narrow that down to a reasonable committee, and we finally came up with the idea of having 8 or 9 members on the committee. And Stephanie had requested each one write a little documentation about what they wanted to accomplish for being on the committee, and that was very helpful in making this decision. So in our due deliberation, we came up with 8 names so far, and we might come back to the board and add another one later on. Currently, we are recommended that you approve Billy Hayes, Linda Klein, David Lee, Relyn Mobley, Randy Ross, Bonnie Sawchuk,
Shoe.
Easy for you to say.
Like a shoe.
Suchuk, and Allison Weir and Stephanie Zenos.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Is there any public comment on that? I see someone getting up.
Danny Carrillo, Lot 505. I'd just like to express my frustration and disappointment with the rec committee board members, Ms. Bianchi, Mr. Shelton, because I feel that you've not included some very knowledgeable people, some very dedicated people, and very capable people. One of those persons being me. I feel that as I ran, and I fully intend to run again, that one of the things that a lot of board members, current board members, and former board members relayed to me is, Danny, you did a good campaign. You very narrowly lost, but we feel if you still remain committed, we'd like to see you run again, but this is one of the suggestions that they made. Join a committee, become more involved. As part of my campaign promise, that was part of it too, to continue to be involved in the community, be active in a board. And so I take it as a personal slap upon myself not to have been picked up as one of the committee members. Also, right from the get-go, right after the election, I did make it known that I would definitely like to be a part of the committee as part of my continuing commitment to the community. Another slap on me was because I put in my interest right from the get-go, and then I see social media, them advertising for more people to join, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I feel that they already have enough people. It's always good to have even more, but I feel frustrated and disappointed with those members not having been selected. And I feel that maybe they feel a threat to the future of my future election. So I'd like to, with those points being made, ask them to reconsider their nominees and to make a more prudent decision based on the information I just provided.
Okay, thank you. Any further public comments? Okay, is no further public comments? Okay, thank you. All right, board comments.
So how many other people were interested in this particular committee that didn't get selected? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
I've been on the committee for 6
No, I'm asking the board member, okay. You were one of them, though?
You want to come,
I don't know who that is.
come to the podium?
Okay, we'll let public, I didn't see her stand up.
I didn't see your.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Martha Glunt, Lot 328, been in the community for 20 years, on the committee for 16 years. No clue why I wasn't invited back. I have emails from Larry that made it seem as though I was coming back, like the 3 that were left from the original committee last year. We started out with 7, we went to 10, and of those 10, 7 people fell out, 3 of us coming back, 2 of them are on the committee. I wasn't asked back. I think that's partly to do with the fact that Stephanie doesn't care much for me. I vote no on things when I think that you guys are looking to spend money that doesn't need to be spent, and I confronted Larry about some of his choices too. One of them being, Joanne, you had it absolutely right. He did want to eliminate the Summerfest bingo from rec committee. So, you know, I'm one vote. If you're worried about me bringing down the rest of the committee, you might want to consider what you're bringing up to be voted on. I don't think that I could make that big of an impact on an entire committee. So.
Stephanie, 15392, Stephanie Xenos. I actually wasn't going to talk tonight, but I do want to state that I was also there at the meeting, and I've also been at the meeting for almost a year, not even as an official member, but as a volunteer working tirelessly. And I can say for a fact that eliminating Summerfest bingo was not what we talked about. We talked about eliminating the high cost of the prizes and making less. I specifically talked about the fact that I tried to go to bingo and there was no room for me, and so I'd love to see there be a more expanded bingo at Summerfest, and everyone was like, yeah, that sounded like a great idea. So there was never talk about eliminating bingo or eliminating prizes from bingo. It was more so about stretching the funds that the rec committee has and doesn't have to give more to more people and more entities in the community. Don't even think about it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Another speaker.
Mike Martell, 424. I want to say about Summerfest, we're not a charity organization. we provide charity funds to everybody. This partnership with RMA extended a long time ago. I would say that we've probably brought to the community close to $800,000 worth of services and goods. One of the things that we also provide to the RMA for their generosity is all the employees, especially in the maintenance department, all come to Summerfest free. The board of directors all come to the wine dinner free. We don't want anything free. We're here to give back. So if you feel in your heart that bingo is not a good partnership, or we're not a good partnership with you guys, or all the work we've done in the community, I think you're missing a big point, and you're going to have much more issues than what you're having now. We contributed to Boy Scout, Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts, to school, to all kinds of different things, to sober night, to special need children dances, to field things. Almost every single organization that's non-profit we're involved in. You guys just made a commitment to a profit organization, this bike race. They're not a non-profit. So now you're allowing a non-profit to use our facilities for profit, and then you're talking about not being a partner with somebody that's been involved in 20 years? We don't need your charity. We want your cooperation. The same thing we're trying to achieve is to make a better place for the residents and the kids growing up and all kinds of stuff. So before there was a Giant game, there was a Kings game. Before there was a Kings game, there was a Stockton hockey game. Before there was a bike stuff, there's been all kinds of events. So we're here just to give back. I think your goal should be is trying to run the best organization to please as much people and get as much cooperation as you possibly can. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Public comment, excuse me. Public comment?
My name's Ellen Moe, and I don't know our lot number. What is it, Bill? 857. I've been in attendance at a few of these meetings to better understand the community and how it runs, and I would love to understand, based on the discussion that I heard about the rec committee and how people are chosen to be on the committee, what criteria were used to make a decision for someone with loyal service like Martha who didn't want to be on the committee? Why was she removed? And then also someone like Danny, who it was recommended that he get involved, why he was declined when he was one of the first people to show interest. Is there a way that that can be explained by the committee members? I believe Larry and Stephanie, if you two are the ones who made that decision.
We'll, what we'll do is we'll close public comment when everyone's done, and then I'll let the board members respond to that if they would like.
Okay.
Is there any other public comments? Okay, I see none, so I'm going to close public comments. Is there any further board discussion?
Okay, I'll ask my question again. Okay, so I was asking how many other people responded to wanting to be on the committee that were not selected?
There was 17 total,
17 total?
and we selected 8.
8, okay.
And how many people were at your first meeting?
Probably,
Was that, is that
well,
here?
I
Is that here?
don't know. No, I don't think it documented everybody.
We usually keep a list, don't we?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, there it is. Oh, here we go. We have it.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 guests, 5 committee members.
14 if you include the 2 co-chairs. Is that right?
Last 3 on the guests were for the bike group, so
Oh.
Jason and Kevin were for the bike group.
Okay.
I have a question.
So,
In regards to that, I'm just wondering, out of the ones that were at the meeting, which ones were chosen?
all right. So if you guys feel like you need to answer that, go ahead.
I can't tell you, in all honesty. I didn't do a count. What I based my decision on was the individual write-ups of the different candidates.
Well, we'll need to, do you guys want to explain?
No,
the-
we don't need to get into a discussion of question and answer from the public. The public comments have been closed. But I do want to address the fact that there was due diligence on both Stephanie and I's part to select members that we felt were appropriate, would move forward with the agendas that we had in mind, and it was based solely on the write-ups that we were given from each individual that we asked for, and not everyone responded to that, to that questionnaire. And I do want to reiterate for Mike and those others that had the comment, we have no intention of eliminating bingo. We have no intention of eliminating the process that bingo uses through Summerfest. That was never part of any discussion that we had that evening.
Okay, I wanted to finish with my question. Okay, all right, so,
Well, it looks like to me, if I can try to, I'll try to answer it. Can I try? It looks like if the last three people are the bike people
Okay.
for the meeting on the 6th, that would mean that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guests were there, plus 3 board members or committee members that were there, plus 2 board members.
no, but I meant, you said there were around 17 people that had indicated an interest. Okay, all right, so I want to make sure I don't say this in any kind of way remember I was saying that I made the mistake of calling this committee a cushy committee. I didn't mean to demean the committee. I just meant it's a fun committee. It's not a committee that it should be a fun committee. It's a committee that, plans activities, and, it should be a happy committee. And so I just felt like, why would you cut it off? Because not everybody can always attend meetings. Why wouldn't you allow people who are interested, to be involved in it? I was just curious why you cut it off at 8. When people really want to be involved with recreation, you often need people to help with things, committees and things like that, subcommittees. So
The 8 members are voting members, but everyone in the room, all 17 of those people who showed up with interest, are invited to be volunteers, to be active in making the different programs work through the year, and we have no intention of shutting off anybody.
okay, all right.
So I'm still not clear why,
Okay, let's finish our discussion.
Larry, I'm still not clear why, so Martha was at the meeting, she's been on the committee, she's a returning committee member, and you didn't put her on the committee. Why not?
It was nothing against Martha, because I don't know her. And I based my decision when I voted on who was on the committee based on the write-ups and what they envisioned for the committee for the future and what they wanted to accomplish by being on the committee. And I never got anything.
Hey, hold on. We need the board to finish our discussion here.
I never saw anything from Martha.
So no consideration was given to her prior service on the
Sure,
committee,
sure.
her attendance at meetings,
Sure.
anything like that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so you
and I even sent her a personal email or a personal letter outlining that.
I have a copy of that if the board would like to see.
You're welcome. We're going to have to finish our discussion here. You can give it to our general manager, and he can forward it to us. Thank you.
Okay, my opinion is I'm not comfortable with you eliminating, I don't see good cause for removing somebody from the committee. If she wasn't attending meetings, I could understand that. If she had no desire, I could understand that, but based on her track record, it sniffs that you eliminated her because she might have a dissenting opinion about some things, which, again, you have multiple other people on the committee, so I'm not really comfortable with the reasons why you eliminated her. And then as far as Danny's concerned, I'm not really sure. I don't know. I'm having a hard time with kind of like what Cheryl said, is why, I'm not sure why, especially these two people that are here tonight, can they not be voting members? Is there,
I think from my standpoint, just I can tell you how I went about thinking about this is, from my standpoint, it was really a consideration of, as Larry said, the information that the people who were interested provided us as far as whether it was their background or their interest in looking at 2019 events moving forward. Now, granted, I understand that, people have lived in the community for a significant period of time and have a wealth of knowledge, and that's why we discussed everybody, being involved in the committee. But we also discussed having too many voting members convolutes the issue. So yes, we need all hands on deck and encourage everybody to volunteer.
does two more members convolute it to the point that you couldn't function?
Well, not only that, but from what I heard Larry say the first time, he said he looked at, the little things they wrote, and, you selected committee members based on what you thought and where you guys thought you should be going as a committee. I believe that's what he said, more or less. And sometimes it's good to have other people with different opinions and different ideas, so that, you're not just going down one road, that you get some other ideas and opinions on your committee, because maybe that's not really truly representative of the entire committee, what the road you guys want to go down.
Agreed, and I think that Larry and I both agree, and I think everybody on the committee would agree that, differing opinions are great, and that's what makes the committee a committee. I think what we have to be aware of is, to make sure that the committee is productive and functional and a positive environment for everybody that's involved.
Well, that's interesting you bring that up, because there's a person on this committee that has written vitriol criticism of the board on social media, used profanity, taken accusatory acts towards the board. It's unbelievable, the stuff I read yesterday that this person's put on, and he's on here.
I'm sorry, I missed
I'm not
your
going to bring
last-
out the name. This person's on here for recommended. And you said you want someone who's going to join your group and be positive and, involved and move your community forward. And that's not what I heard from this person who posted all this stuff on social media. So I didn't want to get into that, but I'm just concerned. I don't think I can vote for this slate the way it is right now.
Can we, is it possible we can amend and add our two folks that came out tonight? It looks like they want to be part of this. Can we amend it and add them, and let's vote on this and move on? Are you guys willing to do that, so we can be inclusive of people who want to be part of this and move on to other items? Are we okay with that?
No, in one word.
Okay.
Basically, the chairs bring a motion to the board, and if the board doesn't like it, we just vote against it, and we go back to square one and discuss it more.
I don't think that's the way it works. I think we can amend the motion, and if it passes, then we move on.
They're making a motion, so we can't amend it. They can amend it. They made the motion, so they can amend it as they'd like to. And it doesn't sound like they want to, so. So then we'll have to vote on the slate, if there's no further discussion.
Where are we exactly?
We have do we have a motion, and do we have a second? Remember, we have a second. Great. Okay, so we're ready to do this then, if there's no further discussion.
Is that approving the current slate of recreation committee
the current
members
slate.
as in here?
The current slate that you have in your list there.
You can't take two more voting members, Larry? That's gonna kill your committee?
No, I would need to reconsider everyone.
Okay. Well, there could be some on the committee that may need reconsideration for various reasons.
Why don't they just take everybody?
Well, and
Well,
that
they
would
just
be
take-
another thing is,
I mean,
They don't want
Take two
to,
more.
Bob. They don't want to.
We've heard a lot about people wanting to, they pay their dues and they want to participate, and I think this is an opportunity for us to be inclusive and to add 2 people to the list. They showed up tonight, they want to be part of the
Well, I think the question then
process.
becomes, in my mind, to be quite honest, is if we're adding, 2 more residents who took their time to come tonight, then do we go back and add all of the people that volunteered for the committee as voting members?
Well, I'll leave that up to you guys if you guys want to do that, but I think, we did add people to the Recreation Committee last year as they came forward, and that was great, right? And we added, and it grew, people were excited, and they participated. I think we have a similar thing where people are wanting to be involved, and I think you should be able to give them an opportunity. They pay their dues. So they showed up tonight, and they're passionate about it. But if you don't want to amend it, we can't force you. So seeing no further discussion, all in favor of this slate as it is stated, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
So it looks like it's a 4-3 defeat of the slate as stated. I'm not sure that that's something that we need to applaud. I think we need to find a resolution to this, though. So can we take a motion? I'm willing to take a motion from the floor. From the board, you guys want a motion? Anything else?
So I can make a motion to include those 2 at the slate and plus Martha and Danny?
If you get a second.
What's that?
If you get a second.
Okay, I'll make the motion that the members of the Recreation Committee be the slate stated, Billy Hayes, Linda Klein, David Lee, Raylan Mobley, Randy Ross, Bonnie Shuchuk, Allison, I'm sorry, I wrote over that. War, Stephanie Zenos, and then to include Martha Glunt and Danny Carrillo.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I still think that the chairs of the board have, or the chairs of the committee should have priority on their decision about who's on the committee.
And I think there should be some kind of indication from committee members that are posting this kind of stuff out on social media, a commitment to being on an RMA committee and, the best interests of the community at heart and not just blasting, using every possible derogatory term you can think of for the RMA board and staff, and then to say that you want to come and be a committee member and promote goodwill in the community. I don't know if we could make a standard for our committee members in the future, but I think it might be something good we could look at.
Yeah.
I think it might be useful to have a process of selecting in the future that is standardized, and so we all understand.
And I think that should be one criteria that's used.
Yeah.
And I think that Stephanie and I actually did go through a vetting process when we made this decision.
Would you like to see some posts?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
We have them
That's good.
available.
That's good. I think we have a motion on the floor that's been seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
I'd like for the board to consider if we're going to, if there's a vote going forth, if we're going to add 2 additional committee members in the effort of fairness, to add all of the members that volunteered as voting members.
Then you need a new motion.
Yeah,
And I don't know that we have all those names. I'd have to go back.
Well, let's say this. Let's see if this, we can vote on the motion and see what the outcome is. And then if the chairs of the committee want to bring forward more people at our next meeting.
Well, I would argue that there's 2 people here out of the 17, and also I saw those 2 were actually at the first meeting. I didn't see 17 other people at that first meeting. Those 2 people that were excluded were actually at that first meeting. So that shows me that they're here, so that shows me that they want to be on the committee. I'm not seeing that from 17 other people.
And that would have to be a separate motion, and that could just be something just to delay this whole process of getting a committee together and trying to be a productive board committee.
Well, you're welcome to bring more names, I guess, would be my answer, if you want to bring more names in the future. But we have a motion and a second on the slate that is in front of us, plus the two that have been added. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of our amended slate, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay.
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 Okay, I believe that passed 5-2. Is that correct? Okay. Okay. Board member comments, item 9. Would anyone like to change the subject?
I'd like to stay on the subject.
Oh, okay.
All right. I would like to recommend that the Recreation Committee consider, when you do organize for your first meeting, that there be, some discussion on the standards and the values that we really do feel are important here for RMA, and that anyone on your committee would agree that they're not going to be on social media criticizing your work on the committee or in any way derogatory comments. I mean, I think it needs to be addressed.
And possibly, if they can't agree to it, maybe they don't want to be on the committee. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Just for your consideration.
Do you want to add anything else to your 3 minutes, Joanne?
No, I took in my second and a half with Cheryl.
Okay. Cheryl, do you want to add anything else to
No,
your
I'm
3
done.
minutes? Larry, would you like to add anything?
No.
No?
I wasn't planning on saying anything, but I just want to reiterate what we said in regards to the concerns that were brought up tonight about Summerfest. We in no way have any intentions of being unappreciative of anything Summerfest has done for the community. It was purely a discussion based on our budget, where the funds were going, and it was opening a discussion, looking at our budget in totality. I personally have been a proponent of collaborative efforts throughout the community, and I want to continue to see those move forward. It was just purely looking at our funds, where they're being spent, and moving forward. So I appreciate everything that everyone does for Summerfest and what they give back to the community. I also wanted to address Ms. Mo's question, but I can't remember what it was. I apologize.
I wanted to know the criteria that you use for deciding who's on the committee and who's not.
Okay. I think we may have answered that, hopefully. Okay.
Rob, do you want to? I'm sorry, Stephanie, anything else?
No, they can.
I got nothing.
You got nothing? Okay. Well, I do. I saved myself for last so I can use my 3 minutes. Hey, first of all, I want to thank all the people who are volunteering to be on these committees, whether it's finance and communications and compliance. It takes community input to make the community run properly. So I appreciate everybody who's willing to put in that time and effort. I hope we can get more. More people to participate in all of our committees, and it's really important that we get community input. I value that the stuff that comes up from committees and gets to the board level. I really value that. It's kind of a way to vet the ideas through people in the community, and I really appreciate that.
Hey, I did have one thing, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
I did have one thing, I'm sorry.
Oh, can I finish?
Oh, yeah. I thought you were finished. I didn't want you to gavel us out.
You took my moment from me. The other thing is I'm really excited about some of our collaborative efforts that we're going to be doing with CSD. I think we're going to be making some progress on some of these fronts, whether it's compliance issues. I think we've got some things coming down the pike here that I'm excited that we're going to start working on. So we're looking at making some progress, and good luck on the Joint Security Committee, colleagues. I'm looking forward to your work on that. And then, go ahead.
Well, two things. So Alex, I just want to say, Alex has been our president now for a little over a year, and he graciously took the title again, and it's not a position for everyone, in the fact that he's doing it, and he does a good job at it. He does a good job of mitigating things, and so I just want to say thank you for that. You're in a tough position quite often, and you do a good job at that.
Hey, by the way, thank you, and I just want to say, what doesn't kill me only makes me stronger.
Yeah. And the last thing is that governing docs committee is wide open, so if anybody feels the need, hey, we're taking people, so come see me, we take everybody. Yeah. Hey, we meet at the gate.
So any further comments? So our next Board of Directors meeting is March 19th. It's right here in this building. But in the meantime, don't forget, joint security meetings on the 28th at the CSD building. So we'd like your input there as well. So thank you. The board still has to go into executive session. Sorry, guys. But we are.